What if I told you there's a film that tries to hypnotize you? Don't believe me? Just listen to this. Did you catch that? Let me enhance the background ambience and try again. This is Cure from 1997, and that disturbing rhythm you heard is the heartbeat of the film. It's both the rhythm of the blinking lights trying to guide your attention and the sound of an ordinary washing machine. An everyday household item used as a tool for terror and manipulation. Because director Kiyoshi Kurosawa is obsessed with the idea of mundane things becoming horrifying. In Cure, the scary thing is not the extraordinary, but the opposite. Everyday objects, people, sounds, and events. A film whose whole premise came from the idea of how normal, everyday people can become killers. Instead of what's on the news, where murderers pretend to be normal people.
テレビなどで殺人事件が起こって犯人が逮捕されるっていう報道ニュースで見ておりまして、でその時のニュース解説者はそういう普通な平凡な人間のふりをして恐ろしい殺人鬼がこの町に潜んでいた。違うんじゃないかなと思ったんですね。もともと本当に普通の平凡な人間で良い人間だった。しかし何かのきっかけでいきなり人を殺してしまった。テレビを見て疑問に思ったのが一つの大きなこの物語を思いつくきっかけでした。
However, its most disturbing feature, something that builds this overwhelming atmosphere, is invisible. The ambiguous and cryptic story about a detective and his investigation into a series of killings is only the surface. What lies beneath is the intent and manipulation of our emotions by Kurosawa himself. And most of it happens through sound, so even if you close your eyes, you're not safe. In the 19th century, James Braid suggested that hypnotic induction requires fixing the patient's eye on a bright object. Other methods included monotonous sounds, relaxation, and focused attention to achieve a trance. But there was an even earlier theory by the German physician Franz Mesmer, who believed there's an invisible magnetic force flowing through our body. And this force can be affected by the so-called mesmerizers, who can influence this magnetism in living beings. This is the underlying force in Cure, manipulating the fabric of the film itself, and with it, the viewers too. He uses several ideas to achieve this, but let's focus on the three I believe are the most important: emptiness, repetition, guided attention. The very first scene where we see Takabe's wife with the doctor and hear her read Bluebeard already has all these elements. Emptiness, the wide shot of the empty white room, her facial expression, the silence in the background. Repetition, as her words and pauses carry the same monotonous rhythm, just like the steps of the doctor walking in the foreground. But the whole scene turns out to be a repetition, as we return to the same place 30 minutes later. It looks like it's the same scene. She wears the same clothes, she puts her coat on the rack the same way, and claims it's her first time seeing this book.
青ひげです。その本を覚えてますか？
いいえ、見たこともない本です。
But we already know she's disturbed, and similarly to the suspect Mamiya, she forgets things. So while she lives in the same scene, experiencing the book for the first time every time, looking at the doctor's tie and the way they sit at the table reveals it's only a repetition to her. And with that, the third element of Kurosawa's hypnosis reveals itself: guided attention. The first time we watch this scene, we won't look at the tie, the details, because he lulls us with the book reading, the blinding white of the room, the sounds. Guiding our eyes at a shaking table, the reverberations of Mamiya's powers, like a magnetic force or an earthquake out of nowhere. Or showing a glimpse into the German notes of the doctor, hinting at Mesmer himself. We see these things, notice the signs, think of what it could all mean, but it all happens subconsciously. And it's not all visual. What comes to mind when you think of memorable sounds that scare you? Often, it's a sudden, loud noise, a jump scare, or a disturbing, ominous melody that accompanies a scene. You all know this one, but you probably don't remember the sounds before and after the murder. Only the sound of a shower left open by the killer who already left. Emptiness is terrifying. Kurosawa felt that and wanted to emphasize it. When you look at a mundane scene, you have no reason to look for any signs of trouble. Like a peaceful morning, where birds are chirping and nothing out of the ordinary seems to be happening. Just two policemen starting their day. And then... To better see what I mean, let's take a look at this scene again with a different approach. What if someone fills up this emptiness, and we feel what's coming before it happens? Music rising in the background, and sound effects that makes us wary of what's coming. Much different, isn't it? But in Cure and in many of his other films, Kurosawa is building an entirely unique sonic landscape, one which barely uses music, and when it does, is the opposite of what you would imagine accompanying a brutal murder. And the sounds we usually think of as scary are replaced by the sounds of everyday life. The wind, the sound of waves, the traffic, the mumbling of a stranger next to you, the alarm at the train crossing light, water flowing, and rain pouring and dripping through the ceiling. The sound of fire from a trash-burning stove in a junkyard, or just a small lighter. And of course, the repeating sound of the empty washing machine, ringing, echoing through the mind of Takabe, sneaking into scenes where it has no place to be.
これ後々取材で聞かれると言ったりするんですけど、はい、洗濯機前イラつくすごい音がして、はい、でファッと開けるとなんか空っぽ、はい、で間宮も空っぽだっていう、その空っぽであることのその何か象徴、はい、何も考えてないそんなことはなんか家庭にあるもので、うるさい音がして、神経を逆なでするようなもの、洗濯機それだけなんですよ。
Mamiya's presence is always with us.
その人の名前は何て言うんですか?
Like in this interrogation, where the detectives see the effects of the hypnosis for the first time. And while the hypnotized policeman goes through his suggested actions again, we hear the rhythmic thud of the washing machine. Notice how in another scene that takes place in the same room, this ambience is missing. When Mamiya, the suspect, is being questioned, there is silence. In fact, in many of his scenes, the background ambience is muted. As the mesmerizer, who has the power of hypnosis, he controls the sound and rhythm. The same way Kurosawa does as a director.
さっきも言いましたけどね、催眠術というか、まさに僕にとっては間宮監督ですよ。知らず知らずのうちに間宮にならされてたっていうか、そのぐらい無でした。だから無でいられたことなんて。
The first time Takabe meets him, we only see his silhouette and the faint flash of his cigarette in the dark. Then he dissolves into a voice in the detective's mind. When Mamiya tries to capture his target, the sounds are active, like here, here, or here. Other times, when there's no outside ambience, he himself creates the monotonous rhythm.
何の仕事?
But once he has you, there is silence, a void he creates.
刑事さん、俺の声聞こえてる?
Or shall we say, Kurosawa does?
聞こえてるよね?
Emptiness is one of the most fitting words to describe Cure.
前は俺の中にあったものが今全部外にある。
People become empty due to hypnosis, committing crimes without emotions or reason. Mamiya's, and with it Kurosawa's goal, is to rip the mask of normalcy from people and reveal the hidden void in the human soul.
その代わり俺自身は空っぽになった。
The mesmerizer becomes empty, losing himself in the process. The washing machine is empty. It's both the routine of Takabe's mentally declining wife and the symbol of his underlying hatred towards her. The stares of the characters are empty. Something that Kurosawa admittedly took from Abbas Kiarostami's And Life Goes On. The conversations are empty.
どこだっけ？白里海岸です。どこ？
Only one side is speaking.
どうして俺はあんたと喋ってんの？
Then the words bounce back from the walls of these empty shells, and these reverberations become repeating echoes.
あんたの話が聞きたい。
Questions that loop on and on, creating their own rhythm.
話が聞きたい。
Mamiya is asking everything again, because as he said, he's empty. He has no memories. But these questions are also mantras, spells that, through their repeating patterns, force the other side to react and open up,
見ないで。
letting him inside their mind. The rhythm of these questions is the rhythm of the machine, the rhythm of Mamiya's movements and actions, the rhythm of the blinking lights, and the drops of water. But it requires the focus of the victim. The slow pace of the film, with long, continuous takes, forces the viewer to stare at the screen, scan the image, and catch the hypnotizing elements, like the swing of a pendulum, the lighter's enchanting flames, or a pool of water slowly spreading on the floor. Blinking objects and lights are shown all throughout. These are often not from the viewpoint of any characters. They are only for us. Subliminal images, visions, and foretellings. It's hard not to think of being hypnotized ourselves. Emptiness, repetition, guided attention, the three pillars of Kurosawa's hypnosis. And the more you look, the more things you notice that serve these. An engrossing audio-visual force that latches onto the brain of its victim and mesmerizes them. This is the overwhelming atmosphere of Cure. In the end, Takabe too becomes empty, released from the anger and suffering he felt his wife evoked in him. Before, he didn't have an appetite. Now, he's calm. He takes over the role of Mamiya. We could even argue Takabe is better at it than he was, remaining normal to the outside world, controlling people with seemingly no effort.
これでお前も終わりだ。
Cure doesn't end with the killer, and it doesn't end with the detective. In fact, it never ends. It sifts through the screen right where we are. I've watched Cure many times before, but whenever I think back,
なんで？
I can never dissociate the images from the sound. With every iconic still flashing through my mind, I hear the droning, the wind, the rain, the fire. I sense the magnetic force of the film, etched into my brain by Kiyoshi Kurosawa himself. A never-ending rhythm, an echo of questions, bouncing around in the void the film leaves us with. Do you hear that too?